I'm Jane Hudson. I'm the executive producer of Emmerdale and I work at ITV Studios in Leeds. A typical working day is overseeing the shoot, casting, being a massive part of the storyline process, reading the scripts, managing the team, viewing episodes, working out stunts. It can be any manner of things. And then there's the boring sides like controlling your budget and other things like that. The thing that gets me up in the morning to come to work is just the creativity. I love coming up with storylines. I love working with the story team, with the writers, and just knowing that you start with absolutely nothing and then you've got to come up with something which lasts forever because Emmerdale is all year round, and that for me is really exciting. And then being on set and seeing that nothing turn into life is just, there's no feeling like it really. So we're based in Leeds, just outside of the city centre, and we've got our main studio, which is where editorial are based and the production teams are based, and majority of our interior sets. We've then got another studio just up the road where we have our home farm set and things like the police station and the hospital. And then about 30 minutes drive from here, we have our village, which is the most incredible set to go to because it's all proper houses. It's not cardboard, wooden fronts. They're real houses made out of bricks. It's a real street and it's a fantastic space for directors to go and work in. Well, I left university and my first job was a reporter because all I wanted to do was be a journalist. And so I started as a reporter before I finished my degree. So I used to go to work earning £7,000 a year, which I thought was massive, come home, do my dissertation, go back to work. And then I very quickly realised it wasn't for me. I'm not cut out to be a journalist. And then I saw an advertisement for Hollyoaks looking for script editors. I'd never seen a script. I didn't know what a script editor was, but I knew I loved Hollyoaks. So I applied and I got an interview. And my interview was with Phil Redmond. And it was quite an amusing interview. I made a huge faux pas when he asked me what the best story I'd ever done as a journalist. And I said, oh, there was this Brookside were doing a 5-night special, first time ever. And this person found the scripts on a skip and they brought them to me. And I sold the story and revealed what was going to happen in this special. At which point Phil Redmond said, you're either very stupid for giving that answer or very nervous. And I said, I think I'm very nervous. And I got the job. So I worked at Hollyoaks as a script editor, and then I moved to Coronation Street as a storyliner. And then I moved to Casualty. And at 27, I got my first job as a producer, which was quite young. Then I was the youngest producer for British drama at the time. And then I went to Hungary for 2 years and produced Robin Hood, which was fantastic, working abroad. And then I came home and I produced Waterloo Road. And then I produced Hustle. And I was pregnant during my time on Hustle. And I had my baby just before we finished shooting. And 2 weeks later, I had to return to work because I was a freelancer. So that was the only income. So my baby was 8 weeks early and I returned to work 2 weeks after having him. And then I managed to get a couple of months off when I'd finished Hustle. And then I went to Law & Order where I produced and wrote Law & Order. And then I sort of realised that producing and being a mum didn't go very well hand in hand. So I got offered the job as a commissioner for ITV, where I worked for about 3 years, I think. And then I moved into development producing for an independent company, and then Emmerdale. So that's sort of me, but I produced freelance for about 10 years. So as a producer, you're responsible for the whole show, really. You're responsible for the scripts, the casting, the budget, the shooting, and you have obviously a huge team around you and a massive support system. But as the producer, it's your job to get it from nothing to something and see the process the whole way through and manage whatever problems come your way. You might lose a cast member, you might lose a location, your script might fall to pieces. So there's all manner of things along the way that you have to do and solve, really, to get the show on air. As a commissioner at ITV, I was responsible for lots of different dramas, so things like Midsummer Murders and Vera and Jekyll and Hyde, as well as the soaps. And it was our job to work with the production companies and just oversee things really, and just make sure that we were all on the same page, that what the production company wanted and what the network wanted were the same thing, but without sitting on their creativity. It was really important the production companies made the programme they wanted, and we just sort of steered them if it was going a little bit off track. My favourite subjects at school were English and maths. I was an absolute maths boffin, I really was. I was obsessed with maths, and I did maths at A-levels. And then English literature, anything to do with reading. I even now, I read every single day before I go to sleep, I read a book. And at A-levels, I did maths, English and German, which is quite a strange mix to put together. And then I did English literature and German and a bit of Japanese at university. So it was always a bit of an odd mix. But I think English and maths, the two staple subjects, were my favourite. If I'm brutally honest, I don't think qualifications do relate to the job I'm doing now. I did a literature degree. There's nothing I did in that degree that led me to being a producer, apart from my passion for storytelling. But you don't have to do a degree to have a passion for storytelling. I think for me, what gets you into this industry is absolute passion and drive and a love of television. And you can have as many qualifications as you want, but if you haven't got that creativity and that passion, then it's not going to help you. I don't think you have to go to university to enter this industry at all. I think what university is great for is introducing you to being independent and to managing your own life and your own bills and to feeding yourself and looking after yourself. Because when you're in this industry, you're often sent away on jobs and you're not near your parents, you're not near your family, and you've got to look after yourself. So I think learning life skills is really valuable for entering this industry, way more so than qualifications are. On-the-job training is crucial, I think. I learned my craft by spending a lot of my time on the floor. I was there as a script editor, just asking questions, always annoying the heads of department by asking how this worked and how that worked, and just getting a feel for absolutely everything. And I think you can't learn unless somebody's training you, and you shouldn't expect somebody to arrive in this industry with the skills because they're so very unique. So again, as long as somebody's got that ambition and that passion to work in this industry, we can teach them the skills. So in Leeds, we work on Emmerdale, and we're very much our own show up here. We're not surrounded by anybody else. But we also work very closely with ITV Network and ITV Studios, because that's who we make the show for. And we work incredibly closely with Coronation Street, who are just across the Pennines. And I think we do that because it's a really good opportunity to pass on information, to pass on things we're learning, to talk about new talent we've seen come through who another show might want to use. And we work with ITV Network on lots of different schemes and initiatives that they're doing so that we can help bring new people into this industry, and they either stay with us or we see them go off and do other things, which I always find really lovely when somebody started with you and then 5 years down the line they're on stage collecting a BAFTA. I just love seeing that happen. The advice I would give to anybody looking to join this industry, which may sound stupid, but watch TV. It's amazing how many people I meet who want to work in TV who don't actually watch TV. And I don't just mean the American shows, I mean the British shows, because that's probably what you're going to work on first. And if you've got no knowledge of what's being made, you don't know the trends, you don't know your audience, you don't know what it is you should be doing. So my first advice is watch television. And secondly, if you know you want to be a director, or you know you want to be a DOP, or you know you want to work in makeup, look at the credits on those TV shows. Look at those people making those shows that really say something to you, and then contact them. You know, they're all these people are on Twitter or they're on Facebook. Just drop a message. Just tell people you admire their work, you're interested in learning more, and you'll be surprised how many people will get back to you and have a chat with you, or maybe even offer for you to come and shadow them at some point. It's amazing how just reaching out can have an effect, because we're not a traditional industry where a job is advertised, you fill in a form, you go for an interview. It doesn't quite work like that. And it's not about who you know. I come from a family where nobody worked in television. I went to a comprehensive school in Rotherham. So I had none of those ins to get into this. I just spoke to people and just talked to people and got to know people. And you have to be a little bit pushy. And if you find you've got spare time on your hands, go and make something. You know, when I was in this industry, we didn't have internet, we didn't have mobile phones. You've got everything now. Get your mobile phone, go and shoot something, go and make something, go and write something that's yours. Don't try and make the next Game of Thrones or the next Line of Duty. Write something that you passionately believe in and you want to see on screen. If producing is what you want to aim for, then it's really important you know every aspect of the job. As a producer, you oversee everything, and you need to be able to have conversations with everybody who works with you, and you need to understand what they're talking about. So just absolutely immerse yourself on the floor, in the offices, talk to people, and never be afraid to ask questions. The worst thing a producer can do is pretend they know the answer when they don't, because that's your job as a producer, is to solve things. So if you don't understand what somebody's asking you, just say, I'm sorry, I don't know what that means. And then when you know what it means, you can go and solve it for them. So just don't pretend, just be honest, just be kind, and just be open to people, and always encourage people to speak when they've got an idea, because even if it's the most bonkers idea in the world, something could come from it. And often our best ideas come from a mad comment somebody makes, and then something spirals from it. I think if you've never worked in television before, it can be quite daunting when you arrive in the building, because there's so many jobs. We've got script editors and storyliners, we've got grips and camera assistants and focus pullers and makeup trainees and prop men and women. So it can be a bit daunting when you first arrive. My best advice, if you are new to the industry, is be a runner. Be a runner on the floor, because as a runner, you work with every department. You see how every department works, and you get a real feel for what it is that interests you. So a job you might never have heard of. I secretly always wanted to be a grip. If I wasn't a producer, I'd like to be building tracks and loading weights onto cranes and pushing a dolly up and down. I didn't know what a grip was before I went on the floor. And I think that's the real key, is just get involved and don't be afraid to ask, because all of us started at the very beginning. So don't be afraid to ask us questions. And actually, people like talking about their jobs. To have a different person on set and a different person to talk to is really quite interesting when you've spent 12 hours a day stood with the same people. If I was just starting out in this industry and I could give myself some words of advice, it would be, don't be afraid. It can be very scary when you walk into a TV studio for the first time. Just remember that everybody's been where you are. Diversity is massively important, and for me personally, it's hugely important. I have a 9-year-old son who's mixed race, and I was sat watching television with him, and we were watching a game show, and he turned round and said to me, "Look, Mummy, there's nobody like me on this show again." And it really registered with me. I just thought, wow, he's noticing at his age, and he was 7 then, that there's nobody who looks like him. And it really broke my heart that that world still exists. So for me personally, diversity is hugely important, and our on-screen diversity has massively increased over the last couple of years. It's also really important off camera as well. It's really important that you can step into the workplace and you can see diverse people around you, because everyone's got different experiences and different stories to tell, and we need all of that to make the best programmes that we can. So when I started in television, I knew nothing about how the industry worked. All I knew was what I liked to watch on TV. And when I made my step into producing, I think a lot of people were surprised. I was 27. A lot of people thought I wasn't up for the job, and what did I know? And you know what? There's a lot of things I didn't know. But what I did know was how to talk to people and how to ask people and how to show my commitment to what they did. I was the first person on set every day and the last person to leave set every day. I learned how to cable bash. I learned how to wire up monitors. I had to go with a Steadicam. I spent time in makeup. And I just talked to people. And above all, I respected every single person who works on that floor because they're all there because they're an important part of that machine. And as soon as you look down on people, disrespect people, forget where you've come from, then you've lost your team completely.